Hello and welcome to the Greater Reston Living Podcast, where we cover everything happening in Reston and Herndon. And today on the podcast, we got a couple of big stories for you. One is we're going to talk to you a little bit about what it's like and how to get around Reston using the bike share program. So that'll be one thing to discuss. And then our next item is Reston losing its edge in architecture? Right? We've seen a lot of new developments happening, and there is some pretty uninspiring architecture. We're going to look at one of the latest projects as an example, but it's not the only one. But before we get into all of that, Kathy, there's been a lot going on since we last spoke on this podcast. We speak every day, but the last time we spoke on this podcast,
it's been a little while. We apologize.
A couple weeks ago, but hey, it's the summer. People are allowed to get out and about in the summer, as we did, or it's the late spring, whatever you want to call it. But this week, let's see, getting back into the swing of things, we had a grand opening in Reston. We've been talking about all of these openings over the last several months.
Yeah.
People have been waiting for them. They're lining up now. Paris Baguette is finally here. The hype is strong with this one. What did you think?
Well, we went there for the grand opening yesterday and the ribbon cutting. It was lovely. The owner is super cute.
Where is there? You said we went there, but where is it? Because in case people aren't
Paris
sure.
Baguette over on Innovation Drive, where RTC Next, the AC Hotel.
The AC Hotel, the Skymark, the Fannie Mae building. It's actually
where Clarity is coming.
It's actually in the Fannie Mae building. Yep.
Yes. So we went to the grand opening and saw the ribbon cutting, and I met the owner. Her name is Alma. And she took me around the shop and showed me all the seasonal items, things that I should try. And I ate.
You did.
I did.
Thank
you.
Thing that I noticed though is, and this was true for Toastique, right? So I think we get a lot of comments sometimes from people saying, hey, make sure you're covering the mom and pops. And we certainly do. And we love to cover the mom and pop businesses. There's a lot of good ones in our area, and they're great to highlight. Obviously, we have a center of commerce here in Reston Town Center. So, it's just the mom and pops are fewer and farther between, but there are a few in the town center, and we'll cover some of them.
There are. But with that being said, Paris Baguette and Toastique, even though they're bigger chains, like Paris Baguette is a big one, but it's a local owner.
That's where I was getting at. Yes, exactly.
I knew that.
Well, I mean, think about that is, people are buying into the platform of Paris Baguette, but they're putting their money at risk. These are local owners. They're putting money back into the area. So sometimes, if it's a national chain and it's run by the national organization, that's one thing. But some of these are franchises, which means that there's a business owner behind them that's usually local to the area. And so it's nice to meet them when they're local, and Alma was local. So, and I was surprised because, Paris Baguette, I did go in with a little skepticism because, I like the mom and pops more typically, but it's good stuff.
It was a mom and pop. I
feel the I mean, I took a couple bites here and there. I'm trying not to do the sugars thing, but they were. I know.
Yeah,
that's me.
Sorry.
In fact, our social media manager wants me to make more faces, right? So I'm going to say, okay. So yeah, I'm boring, but nonetheless, I was pleasantly surprised.
Let's talk about the donut. Let's talk about that.
Well, the blueberry lemon donut, that was really good.
With the custard.
The custard was good. And, something different than just a Boston cream, as an example, which I love a Boston cream. Don't get me wrong.
And the seasonal item for the ham and cheese croissant. Oh, and you are a connoisseur of a plain croissant.
Well, I always believe you got to use the plain croissants as your way to figuring out whether or not, there you have a good foundation. And what I've noticed is some croissants in our area, they are super, super hard, crispy, flaky is what I'm going to call them. Like you bite into them and the whole thing just breaks apart and every crumb is on your shirt, right? And to eat a croissant, if a crumb doesn't get on your shirt, then you're not eating it right. But you don't want the entire thing full of crumbs, right? And so...
But also, you schooled me on how to eat a croissant because I just would have bitten in. You're like, croissants are meant to be ripped.
I mean, that's just basic etiquette. I mean, I didn't think I had to teach you that, but okay. It took 31 years of knowing you to finally figure that one out. Okay.
Anyhow, it was good. It was great. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah. So that was good. Sure. But anyway, it was to wrap up the croissant part though. It's a very good buttery flaky croissant, which is the way it should be. A little moist, but some crispy outer edge, but not disintegrating crispy. So
we'll go say hi to Alma.
One day we'll have a croissant off in Reston and Herndon.
That sounds wonderful.
Let's go. Do it. We'll wait for National Croissant Day. Okay. Next item is an upcoming event that we keep hearing about from the broker in our real estate office. And
he's also a pilot. He's a pilot and he has a plane.
Tell us about innovations in flight, Kathy, coming to Udvar-Hazy, right? Hazy or hazy? I like calling it Udvar-Hazy. I think some people
call it Udvar-Hazy, but correct us if we're wrong.
Yeah, some people say Hazy.
It's Udvar-Hazy.
Well, it's somebody's name, so there is a right way of doing it. I just don't know what it is. Somebody should
let us know if we're saying it wrong.
I think we are.
Anyhow, this event is over at Udvar-Hazy on June 13th on a Saturday from 10 to 3 p.m. Parking is $15. It's free to go, but you need to get timed passes to go.
Yeah, and this is going to be...
You can't just show up.
This is like an experiential type of an event over there, right? So you normally go through the Udvar-Hazy and you can look at planes and things, but this is like getting up close and personal with them. They're going to be flown in. They're going to be outside the Udvar-Hazy, kind of like on the runway between the museum and Dulles. And people will be able to interact with the pilots and owners of the planes and things like that. And there are going to be all kinds of different ones. It's sort of like...
There's over 60 aircrafts that fly in for the day, including vintage planes, military aircrafts, helicopters, and commercial airline jets.
Yeah.
This year, this is new, an air racer flying in.
Well, and it's similar to...
At the end of the event.
It's been described as like a car show, right? Everybody knows the car shows and everything. So it's the same kind of an event, but for planes. So, all right. So that'll be good. People should put that on their calendar and we'll have that out in our newsletter. So if you want to be reminded, subscribe to the newsletter. And then this one keeps popping up all the time, Kathy. We've got a lot of, we're always talking about the old Bowman Distillery. And now it's been put on the endangered... Well, I was going to say the endangered species list. It's in the endangered historic places list in Virginia. It just seems like nobody's lining up to buy that place, right?
It's been on the market for 111 days, and it's still $2.5 million.
Which I'm not surprised by.
No, I'm not.
I mean, especially, because it's a unique thing, and you have to have a unique vision for it. But I think...
More money.
I think there's just not enough land around it. It's just too much to try to preserve it, and there isn't a commercial viability for it. And I think that's going to be a shame. It seems like if something doesn't happen or someone doesn't intervene, that could go the way of, history in Reston, just, the way of the dinosaurs, so to speak.
People will not let that happen.
I hope not. It's a nice little place, but it can't just sit there with overgrown trees around it either. So something's got to happen.
Someone needs to show it a little love. Come on now.
Yeah. Speaking of overgrown trees, I wanted to bring up something. I just saw this in the Washington Post recently had an article about the tree cover in cities and suburbs and so on. It had this unbelievable map that I wanted to show folks because I don't know if everybody knows Reston is considered a tree city by the National Audubon Society, I think, and has been for many, many years. We have some of the best tree cover everywhere, pretty much anywhere around, certainly anywhere in the DMV. So let me just share this map if folks haven't seen it. This is a map of the DMV area within the Washington Post. So you can see Washington, D.C. over here. Northwest D.C. If it's darker, then you can see there's more trees there. If you go out west of Washington, D.C. to the Reston area and we start zooming in, you'll see this big dark splotch. This is South Reston, the area around Glade and Lawyers. We're talking about 80% tree cover. So this is one of the reasons why. And you see Reston in general has some good tree cover. It gets to about 50% coverage when you get closer or more north by the South Lakes and up toward the toll road. Obviously, in our urban core, we're much less tree cover, though I'd love to see more trees incorporated into the new developments that are being built out. Maybe some of the smaller trees will grow into larger trees over time, and that'll improve. And then, this is Lake Fairfax area, a little bit obviously darker, and North Reston, about 50% tree coverage. But it's cool to see. The South Reston, a little bit of Oak Hill, a little bit of Fred Crabtree Park area down here is all super well covered. And one of the reasons that makes South Reston kind of a unique place to live, because it's not often you get that, live in the woods, but have all the conveniences of a suburbs kind of growing into city like Reston, right?
Right.
So anyway, is that cool or am I just crazy?
No, I love it. We're always talking about green space, greenery, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that soon.
All right, let's get into one of our top stories. And I want to get into it because, first of all, you and I, Kathy, I want to let everybody know. What?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
we're going to talk about London.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm following the show notes. Are you?
Yeah. Well, I am.
Okay. Trust me
that I am. But I felt like
too.
you were jumping in. I feel
Trust
like
me that I am
ahead.
too. Trust me.
Oh, no. You've missed stories before, so I'm making sure you're on track.
Okay.
Come on now.
Okay. So, yes, one of the reasons we were away for the last 2 weeks, people probably missed our podcast.
You did.
We were in London for our son's graduation, and he's now living there, and we spent almost 10 days there. And one of the things, now that we're no longer tourists in the city, because we are actually visiting family in the city instead, and it is different because we've been there 5 or 6 times at this point, so we've seen most of the tourism stuff. 3 for you. I've been there
3.
I've been there 6.
You're fancy.
I am. But anyway, we're seeing now occasional touristy things, just like you would if you're living around here, and occasionally you go into DC to see things, you take family around, that kind of thing. So we were a little more leisurely than usual. And one of the things that we realized that we should do is bike around London. So they have e-bikes and bike shares everywhere. There is a London official bike share, but it seems like most people don't use the official bike share. They end up using Lime bikes or some of the other competing bike share programs that are out there. I think in this area, we know Lime more for the scooters than the bikes, but they have both. And we were biking all over London.
And it's hours. Also because London's weather was not rainy. Actually, we got there, it was nice, and then it was the heat wave where I melted.
Yeah, crazy. But it was great to be able to zip all around. I mean, anybody who's been to London, there's probably many people in the audience that have been there, know that it's kind of a crazy driving city. People are flying around. People are crossing streets left, right, and center. It's, it's hectic, just like any big city. But surprisingly, once we got on those bikes and we got accustomed to the left side of the road, it became like, why aren't we always doing this? It was
crazy. Like the Lime bikes were just so much fun.
Well, and we did have some moments, though. There was a moment where we're going around one of the big giant, I think it was Oxford Circus, and we're going around this huge crowds, and we get past, and there's a giant double-decker bus in front of us, so we pull right up behind it, waiting for a stoplight, And then, sure enough, another double-decker bus is coming full steam ahead right to the rear of our bikes. And it was like, whoa, this is going to be crazy. And then, you know me, I started singing from the old Smith song about the double-decker bus, but that dates me, and I'm not sure if anybody on this audience knows. I'm not going to sing the song, but if anybody knows what I'm talking about, the Smiths, where they talk about double-decker buses in their song, reach out in the comments. I want to know if there's anybody else that's crazy like me, but I sang that song while these double-decker buses were on us.
But also, when you're in London and you're on the line bikes, you are in the traffic. You are smushed between the double-decker buses.
Yeah.
And all the bikes with the food deliveries. And like, I gotta admit, I was scared. I was scared.
Yeah, but you warmed up pretty quick. But nonetheless, how does this relate to Reston, right? So people are out there going, okay, why are you talking about London? This was just sort of inspiration for when we came back, we were so excited about that. We were looking around like, Reston has the bike share. The Capital Bike Share is here in Reston, which is cool. It's only in Washington, D.C. In fact, let's look at the map here on this. So we started looking at the bike share and saying, well, first of all, we've hardly ever used it. I think you've used it once or twice for some videos that we've done, but we haven't really engaged in it. And I wonder how many people are using it. So here is what we're talking about for anybody out there, Capital Bike Share. Capital Bike Share program, and this is one of their e-bikes. And then maybe the red bikes are the standard bikes out there. And I want to show you the map here. So if I zoom out for a second, you can see. Okay, obviously it's big in Washington, D.C., and the immediate outskirts of Washington, D.C., branching out even down to Fairfax along I-66 and into Tysons. But then it jumps over and Reston gets a little piece of this, even a part of Herndon, not necessarily downtown Herndon, but we do have the western sort of urban core portion of Herndon. And, I wanted to look at this and say, well, okay, what's going on here? Now, the thing that I noticed in London was most people were renting the e-bikes. They just kind of no longer rent the regular standard bikes. There were people who had owned their own, but it seems like if you're going to get people in any scale getting and riding the bikes instead of driving their cars to do errands and things like that, you're going to need e-bikes probably. So I was like, well, how many e-bikes do we really have in Reston? And when you look in at the bike share program, as I drill in on this map a little bit, you'll see there really aren't very many. So most of these are basically showing you there's a docking station here. There's 11 bikes at the Library Street and Freedom Drive station near Reston Town Center, and none of them are e-bikes. But if you click on this one with this little charging icon, you can see there's one e-bike, there's 4 classic bikes, and one e-bike at the Market Street. And as you go around, there's just not that many. There's another one e-bike here at the Reston Town Center Metro. And these are going to vary depending on the day. You can go into the Herndon area. You can see there's one bike here. There's 3 e-bikes here, no classic bikes. And so it seems like there's more e-bikes actually out here in this little Herndon area that's been blowing up in McNair area. But I just thought, we haven't really used them to run around and do errands here, but, we ought to be. But it's a combination, I think, of the lack of e-bikes and the lack of cycling infrastructure, right? I mean, what do you think, Kathy? Like, there really is, the safest places to ride bikes are where? The W&OD.
Which
go ahead.
It's small. You have a lot of bikers that are zipping on there. And it's like, I don't always feel safe. I don't really feel safe on the road, even though some places we do have the bike lane, which is good. But I just feel like in London, I feel like drivers were completely aware of the bikers. And I want to say most of them did try to work with the bikers because it's a biking community. But I don't feel like that's the same in Reston. I feel like people are always annoyed with the bikes and, having to stay 3 feet, go around 3 feet. So
Yeah. And I feel
it's a little
like,
bit scarier.
yes. And
And the sidewalks are not,
we always
they're
talk about the
bumpy.
trails in Reston, right? The 55 miles of trails. But those are not conducive to e-bikes. I mean, honestly, they're not even really conducive to regular bikes, except for quick cut throughs. But I mean, if you're commuting, you're doing other things like that, you really should be on the roads. But the roads are not really designed very well for bikes either. So we get conflicts with ride drivers and so on and so forth. So I don't know. One of these days, we're going to need to address it more comprehensively. I think maybe we can get a guest on the podcast at some point to talk about, how to improve the biking infrastructure in this area, because I think
I
we're
know we
missing
have
an
some
opportunity.
we have some really good bike shops around, and they host rides. So when you see a bunch of people in a group, they're trying to bring awareness to it.
Yeah,
I feel like we need more.
right. So anyway, that was something that I think I just wanted to, I guess, raise the question with the audience too. Or is anybody using the Capital Bike Share program? Are there heavy users out there in our audience? Like, let us know where you're going with them, what the use cases are that you're doing. I'd love to hear more about how people are
Are
using
they
it.
convenient? What do you use them for? Are you able to find them when you
Yeah.
need them?
Would you use it more if there were more e-bikes versus standard bikes? Those are kinds of questions I want to know about. And is the lack of biking infrastructure one of the reasons why you're not using them? Or is it simply that you don't have a habit to do so and you're just used to driving your car? Curious about all
good
those
questions.
things. So maybe we'll be able to talk about that in more detail with an expert in the future. So stay tuned for that. The last thing I wanted to talk about with you, Kathy, is there's this project, a new development. Obviously, we're covering these developments all the time, right? New multifamily apartments and condos are being built all across Reston and Herndon. We've been covering mixed-use developments, the 2-over-2 townhomes that are being built everywhere. We really are not seeing any building of new single families at all. But anybody listening to this podcast knows we've been covering a lot of these developments. One of them that we covered probably 3 or 4 months ago now was one in the outer edge of Reston Station, the eastern side of Reston Station, closer to the Reston post office. That, in fact, why am I talking about that when I should be showing it, right? So let's
show the map.
Show the map. We were talking about this project. That's right now where 1850 Samuel Morse Drive is. So over here is the post office for anybody getting their Reston bearings. The bike lane, bike shop is across the road. This is Sunset Hills Road. And we've got Wheelie Avenue over here, and the JW Marriott, the Reston Station core is here. But this whole area around is the build out of Reston Station that's going to take place over many years from now. And there's a project that's in flight right now, trying to get final approvals to replace these 3 buildings that are old, outdated office buildings and replace them with multifamily housing and 2-over-2 style townhomes.
Let me just share exactly what they are doing.
Go ahead.
Samuel Morse Drive with 158 homes, including 112 condos across 3 5 to 6-story buildings, and 46 stacked townhomes in 1 4-story building. So,
and
that's the plan.
Right. And so, here's an example of what they were looking like, right? So I drilled into some of their plans. This was an initial plan. I think they're updating them somewhat, but I got to tell you, and I hate to say this, but I was a little underwhelmed by the architecture. Now, obviously,
can you show it?
I thought I was, but let's share this screen.
Yeah, there you go.
Here we go. Here we go. Keep me honest, as you always do. And so here's the multifamily building. It's one of these that we've seen before. These are popping up not just in Reston and Herndon, but all over. And they're just sort of like flat facades that they try to vary the look by having these very different color schemes. but in fact, they are really mostly just kind of flat or very, you know, architecturally uninteresting, I'll say. And when you look at the 2/2s, almost they're institutional. I don't know. Maybe they'll come alive with when you see the actual materials, but they're looking pretty uninspiring to me. And it kind of brought me back to the idea of when Reston was founded, there was the principle of architectural interestingness. I don't remember the exact, wording used for on the principles and guide documents for Reston, but part of it was that it would be inspirationally, architecturally designed in some way.
And because most of the clusters have their own
unique look and feel, right?
Exactly. And I feel like that's what a lot of people are complaining about. It's like, what happened to that uniqueness? And why do we keep seeing these new builds that are, as you say, uninspiring?
Yeah. And I started thinking about it and I was like, well, I get it. I understand from an economic point of view, you need to maximize how much revenue you're going to be able to get from these places and justify the huge investments that there are in the land and in the demolition and the preparation of the land and building the actual buildings and then managing them long term. And those are huge expenses. So obviously you want to be doing things where the costs are in line with what makes sense for that place economically. But I just have this feeling of like, there has to be a better way, a more inspiring way. And how can those involved in the planning, in the community, and so on, get some words to describe what they're looking for beyond this ain't it, right? When I look at these things, I go, well, okay, it's okay. I get it. It's cheap. But this is not what we're hoping for. We want something more inspiring.
Quintessential Reston.
Yeah. So I was looking around and saying, is anybody doing this better? Like, what are some inspiring things that we could lean on? Because I was having a hard time trying to imagine them myself. What would I replace it with? How would I make something nicer and still be able to make money with the thing? So I started looking around and saying, well, let's just take a look at some of these other options that are out there or what some award winners have done so we can get a sense as to what else is out there and how Reston could do better. So I was looking at different award sites there. There was the Housing Awards in 2024. And okay, this seems a little bit cookie cutter like what we're talking about, but maybe a little bit better. But, beautiful brick front apartments. I don't know. Are you able to see that, Kathy? Is that too small?
It's small, but I can see the arched windows. I see the window with, I think there's a balcony.
Yeah, I mean, take a look at much more interesting architecture. Now, obviously, architecture should match the environment that you're in, right? So here's another one that maybe looks a little more Scandinavian to me, but you see varied roof lines, different shapes. It's just much more interesting. It's built into and around this little retaining pond. Doesn't look like it's a place that you're fishing or anything. It looks like it's meant to be there for the retaining purposes, but they've worked the views from the apartments into it and so on. This is a larger apartment building in a city. There's just a lot more that can be done, I think, to inspire. Here's one where you can walk under it and, it's brick front with different varied sizes windows. And I keep looking at some of these. Let's look at another set here. And I just keep saying, yeah, maybe these aren't necessarily for Reston, but they should be used as inspiration for doing something different. I mean, look at this one. So yes, this is relatively...
Let's keep doing the uniqueness in the clusters.
Exactly. We need some uniqueness. It needs to match our environment. I mean, this one's wild. Some other crazy shapes. So these are a little out there, I would say. But this one is this one here, I think it's this one.
That looked like a submarine.
But this one I thought, oh my God, that must be in Scandinavia or something, right? This is Detroit. So I was like, well, okay, this is kind of cool. If these kinds of things can be built and, it's just having some more imagination. I'm not expecting the developers to do this unless they're pushed. But I would love to see the planners, the leaders, maybe it's the Reston Association, maybe it's the Fairfax supervisors, maybe it's the committees that are beneath those that are approving the zoning and so on and so forth. Like, yes, Fairfax County as a whole, Reston is part of Fairfax County. The zoning in Fairfax County isn't such that it's requiring unique architecture, as best I know. But Reston had as its guiding principle unique architecture. I'd love to see the Fairfax County planners
And let's also share that, so the Reston Station, this is a Pulte home.
Yeah.
That's who is building this.
Right.
And so part of it has already been built, and some of the residents are having complaints and want to have these, what they're concerned about, addressed before the next phase.
Yeah. It's Lofts 1. The one that's being built is Lofts 2 at Reston Station. Lofts 1, I guess, or the original Lofts at Reston Station, you're right, have been built and they were complaining. I think that's how this delayed process is. They're still waiting on approval. They were hoping to be approved earlier, but they're still waiting on approval because of issues arising from the owners at Lofts 1. So it's a good example of people in the community raising concerns.
Yes.
And those concerns appear to be at least delaying things so they can be examined, and potentially the developer will have to provide, if they want to go forward, some additional concessions to make sure that those complaints were addressed before building out this
Let's
new
share
community.
a couple of what the complaints were. I'll just make this super quick. They were expressing frustration with the gaps in Reston Station Boulevard's pedestrian infrastructure and calling for more green space and trees in the new development. They feel like Pulte has fallen short on several of the commitments tied to the original 44-unit project that was originally approved by Fairfax County.
Yeah.
And they're also including there have been issues with inadequate parking, due in part to the lack of required loading spaces. There's been a delay in the striping Reston Station Boulevard for on-street bicycle lanes. And ultimately, snow removal has been an issue.
Yep. So they better get their act together
Before the next phase.
Okay. All right, Kathy. We were away for a while, but this was a good show and a long show.
Yeah.
But it was deserved because we had to catch up from our time away from the audience. Listen, I want to ask our audience if you have anything to say about the architecture or the bike share, or really any of the topics here. I'd love to hear it. We want to hear your feedback. Also, if there's any feedback you have for us, put it down in the comments. We want to hear all of that. And sign up if you want to know what's going on in Reston and Herndon. Sign up for our newsletter. I promise you, it's not a real estate newsletter. It is a community newsletter, even though we are real estate agents. And if you are interested or thinking about making a move into or out of Reston or Herndon or anywhere in Northern Virginia, we are happy to be your realtor of choice. So reach out, hit the like button, let us know what you think, and we'll see you, Reston.